Welcome to the Adriana Talks Neto podcast, the podcast where we turn money lessons into tools for healing, confidence, and prosperity in our community. I'm Adriana, your bilingual money coach, educator, entrepreneur, and proud author. Here, we honor our raíces and ancestors while building wealth for future generations. Each episode, I'll share practical tips, wealth building strategies, and real talk to help you take control of your dinero. Step into abundance and go from surviving to thriving. Let's talk dinero. So it is, as I'm recording today, International Women's Month. So if you are a mujer that is listening to this, I am wishing you a happy International Women's Day. And of course, we have the entire month to celebrate too, right? So if you didn't know, the entire month of March is Women's History Month. And with that is really honoring all of the women in our life and all of the women from the past who have done some amazing things. So kudos to you guys. I think that every woman, doesn't matter what they do for a living, what they've done, what they haven't done, todos nosotros somos chingonas en realmente. So may you always feel celebrated. May you always remember how far you've come and know that you are your ancestors' wildest dreams too. So with all of that, I really want to go ahead and take this episode to go around the topic of a financially independent woman. And that is like what I have really put my life goal to be. I always said this, the chiquita, chiquita. Well, of course, it was ingrained in my head too by my parents, but it was always my goal to be an independent woman because I have seen way too many times in my life with my family members, with my biological grandmother, with my tías, with my primas, with a lot of women in the community that they put themselves in situations where they are stuck. And one thing that my mommy always told me is to never corner yourself with anybody. Never corner yourself with a man, never corner yourself with your job, never corner yourself with anything. Like always have a plan to get out, always have a way to get out. And some consejos that my papi always gave me was that before I got married, he always wanted me to do three things. One, own my own home. And I did back in 2018. I bought my own house and I lived here by myself for about a year and a half before my now fiance moved in during the pandemic. Number two, he said, you have to get an education, which in his mind, that was a way for me to make money. So I got my education, got my associates, my bachelor's, and then a double MBA. And that was a tool for me to go ahead and make money. And then number three is he wanted me to be financially set. He wanted me to be financially comfortable because he would always say to me, tu esposo te pone los cuernos, which is that your husband is cheating on you or being bad in any way, puedes echarlo al calle, that you can go ahead and kick his ass to the curb. And I've done that in a past relationship. Actually, I was engaged once before and he cheated. And that's exactly what I did. What my puppy told me to kick him to the curb. At that time, I wasn't as financially set. I was really, really, really young. I was 19 at the time. That could probably be a whole other podcast episode, to be honest. But in all honesty, I did those three things. And now I'm going into getting married in, oh my gosh, like less than 6 months, which is crazy to think. But I can honestly say that Adriana now coming into a soon-to-be marriage, and then Adriana then, who thought that she was going to go into a marriage, are two completely different Adrianas. So there's a lot that goes into becoming that financially secure woman. And I truly believe that it is something that every woman can get to. It is something that every woman should aspire to get to. 6 things that every single woman should do in order to become financially independent. So, number 1 is to earn and grow income. And that is essentially what my dad said, right? In form of education. But the way that I like to go ahead and think about it is, number 1 is you are always going to negotiate your salary. I don't care if you think that they're already paying you quite a bit. Do not take the first offer that they give you. Always go back and ask for something else. I always tell my clients, like, I don't care if you ask for more money. I don't care if you ask for more PTO. I don't care if you ask for a wellness stipend, if you ask for a daycare stipend, or if you ask for like hybrid work when it says that it's fully on site. I don't care. You're going to negotiate something that's going to save you money or make you money. And you always have to do your market research when it comes to your salaries, and always advocate for yourself at every job offer. And I am not the type of person that says you should stay at a company for X amount of years. Like, go ahead and leave, like, when you feel it is right for you to leave. You do not owe your career to anybody. You do not owe your time to anybody. And that's someone who works in HR that is telling you this. The other one is to invest in skills and education that will increase your earning potential. So very much like my papi would say, right? You had to get educated before you get married, was his rule. And well, yes, I do believe that not everyone should go to college. I do believe that everyone should get some sort of skill set, learn something. Like, if you want to go ahead and go to learn how to be a plumber, if you do want to go to school and get your education, or if you want to go ahead and learn a different language where you can go ahead and be an interpreter, or if you want to go ahead and invest in a real estate because you want to make passive income, those are the things that I'm talking about. You have to go ahead and spend money sometimes in order to make money. And I think that's something a lot of people are like potentially like scared of, is that they're like, well, I don't want to get into debt. I don't want to go ahead and risk anything. Sometimes you got to go ahead and risk it, honey. I promise you that as long as you make a plan to pay it back, or you go ahead and make a plan to go ahead and increase the amount of money you're going to get back, or basically like your rate of return, you're going to go ahead and be on top. And then the big one that I think everyone should do, but especially women, is that you need to build multiple streams of income. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do for a living. If you are going to corner yourself and only have one source of income, you are doing yourself such a disservice. I don't care what chapter of life you're in either. You can be an itty bitty 18-year-old listening to this, or you can be someone who is starting to push towards retirement, or you can start planning for your family. Okay, do not depend on your husband's income, and do not depend on just one income. A lot of times people overcomplicate this when I'm talking about more than one stream of income. More than one stream of income can essentially look like you have a 9-to-5 that you get your income off of. And then you go ahead and you open up a high yield savings account and you put in 6 months worth of living expenses in there. So now you're getting probably like $40 a month off of the money that is sitting in there for the rainy day. And then let's say that you have a small business, just like I do. I'm talking through Adriana Talks, which is my small business. And maybe For the small business, you do dog walking or you take care of people's pets when they go on vacation. And then you have investing accounts like I do. And you start having enough money in these investing accounts at a certain point where you can actually go ahead and pay some bills off of the dividends. So you don't have to overcomplicate it. You don't have to be in this hustle mentality. You don't have to do any of that. You can create passive incomes in so many ways. Those were three different ways to go ahead and create forms of income. Some of them passive, some of them you do have to put in a few hours, which is completely fine. But you want to go ahead and have a plethora of different ways to go ahead and make income. Let me tell you, the average millionaire has 7 forms of income. Some passive, some that they actually have to work, which is called an active. And it can be as little or as big as you dream it to be. Heck, maybe it is, for example, in my personal example, in my own personal life, the house that I purchased when I was 28 years old back in 2018, this house, I already told my fiance, mi amor, I am not selling this house. For one, I got it at a really good price. For two, the interest rate on it, I cannot beat it. Like, you're not going to see interest rates like that anymore. So basically, it's mine forever. We're never going to sell it. And the day that we end up finding a new house, this is something that I'm going to go ahead and rent out and create income for myself. And then, ya cuando soy viejita, and if I want to stay here in the United States, I can go ahead and live here. So it's examples like that. So make sure that you're always earning and growing an income. Even if it's a little bit of money, a little bit is better than nothing. Number 2, building a strong foundation. So you're going to go ahead and open accounts in your own name. This is checking accounts. This is savings. This is credit cards. You're going to build your credit. You want to have these accounts in your own name. This whole idea of getting married and then now everything comes together and you don't have anything for yourself, no lo hagas. Honestly, si vas a hacerlo, like, you are putting yourself in a really tough situation. And I know this is very controversial because there's going to be a lot of people that are going to say, well, Adriana, like, what's his is mine and what's mine is his. I get it. But historically, we have seen way too many times, and even if you look in your own lineage, amiga, how many of your tias cannot leave a shitty situation? How many of your grandmothers survived your grandfathers and now had to depend on their children to go ahead and support her because she's never worked a day in her life? How many times have we seen a prima get married to a guy that just doesn't even deserve her and beats her, is abusive to her, does all these horrible things, and she can't leave because she doesn't have her own money or because she doesn't have the credit to go ahead and rent a little studio apartment? That is what I mean by you need to have your own money. If you talk to those same women, once they get older, they are all going to tell you the same thing. Mija, siempre vas a poner dinero al lado, which is basically you're always going to go ahead and put money to the side. Always do that. Don't ever corner yourself with something like that. And you're going to build and maintain a good credit score. This is going to give you borrowing power and buying power when you need it, and it's going to be independently. So you don't need to depend on a man in order to go ahead and get a car to take you from point A to point B. You don't need to depend on anybody to go ahead and escape something that no longer serves you and live in something small. You don't need to depend on somebody to sign off on your FAFSA because you already built your own credit, and you can go ahead and take out student loans to go ahead and better yourself so you can make money, well, more money one day. And also, this is the big one. Create an emergency fund that covers 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses, and this money is going to go into a high yield savings account, and then that money is going to turn into passive income for you. You want to go ahead and have your own money off to the side. Do not put yourself in a situation where you are living paycheck to paycheck. And if you are, even if you're putting $5 away in that savings, that's a lot better than nothing. Here in the United States, statistically, the majority of Americans do not have enough money to cover a $300 emergency. Do not be one of them. Number 3, invest early and consistently. Make sure that once you get a job and they have a 401k available, you sign up for that 401k or that 403b if you work for a nonprofit. And take full advantage of the employer 401k matches. It is free money. If your employer has profit sharing, even better. Essentially, what that means is that it is a publicly traded company, or they also have some sort of like stock plan or a market plan, and you get a piece of that. So take full advantage of all that free stuff that you get through benefits. What I always tell all of my coaching clients, especially during my investing courses, is that if you are able to, go ahead and open up a Roth IRA immediately. I think every young woman at the age of 18 years old should go ahead and open up a Roth IRA. And when they get birthday money, when they go ahead and start getting their first job and things like that, start putting money in there. That's what I did. I did it in my late 20s. I wish I would have started when I was 18, when I was working my part-time job in college. But there were times where in my 20s, I still had my grandmother, thankfully, and she'd give me money and I put half of it into my Roth IRA. So some of the money that grandma gave me has now grown into quite a bit of money that is going to keep on growing as I get older. Also, invest in low index funds. So don't have the money sit in there. Make sure you go ahead and take advantage of those index funds, which is essentially a lot of different companies in the United States that are put into one stock. And then you go ahead and buy a piece of it, and then you get a piece of a lot of different companies. It always ends up beating what other people end up doing. So that's like really the most consistent way to do so. And then also talk about it with other women. Tell them that you're investing. This is how we go ahead and normalize things like this, and we can see other women win too. Now, if you are listening to this during Women's History Month, I actually have a course called Investing with Impacto. So if there's a lot of things that I just mentioned and you're like, Adriana, I don't know what any of that means, I'm so confused, I have a 2-week course, and then it includes a free one-on-one with me where we will go ahead and go through how to invest. I'm going to show you exactly what I do in my portfolio. I'm going to go ahead and help you open up that Roth IRA, because we need to go ahead and close that wage gap. We need to be the ones that are investing, and we need to be the ones in control of our money. So the first class starts on April 1st at 7:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. If you cannot make it, it is recorded. And then you also get all of the resources, the slides, and all the things. I do have payment plans available, so I will put the link in my show notes if you are interested. I get a lot of women that come out of there and they start investing right away and they start building their wealth, which is super exciting to see. Number 4 is to protect yourself legally and financially. So understand your joint finances in relationships. So this is where you start having those really difficult conversations and saying what you owe, what you earn, and what you own together. Owe, earn, and own. And this will start kind of having conversations, and you really have a really good perspective on what your partner or your future husband or wife has gotten themselves into or what their goals are. And like I mentioned before, have your own accounts regardless of what your relationship status is. Like, yes, you can go ahead and have that joint bank account, but make sure you always have your own too. Get the appropriate insurance as you start aging, right? So this is your health insurance, disability insurance, and then life insurance if you have dependents, or if you also owe money like on your house and things like that. You don't want to leave your partner or your children behind with that much debt. And then also, this is something that I am doing, is I am getting a prenuptial agreement. So if you've never heard of that, a prenuptial agreement is essentially before we get married, well, he will decide if he wants to do this too. I will go to my estate planning lawyer and I will go ahead and tell her that I'm getting married. And if we ever do get a divorce, this is what I am going to stay with, because I have seen way too many times that women are the ones that sometimes are the breadwinner in a relationship. They get a divorce and they get screwed over. Do not do that to yourself. With whatever wealth you're coming in, make sure it's protected. And then with whatever wealth you guys are building together, go ahead and say what's going to happen then too. And then the other big one too is to make sure that all of your afterlife things are taken care of too. So that is your will, your trust, and your power of attorneys. Again, if these are foreign things to you, you can always go ahead and book a call with me and we can go ahead and go through what are things that you need to prepare for yourself for any sort of afterlife planning. And this is a really good conversation to have with somebody, such as myself. So you can also do these things for your parents or for your partner, because what I always say is that death is the only thing promised in this lifetime. As morbid as it sounds, it is true. The only thing we are promised in this life is that we are going to die. So the better prepared you are and the better sort of conversations that you have for that, you're going to be at more peace. You don't have to worry about too much because everything's already taken care of. So I will also put a link down below to go ahead and book a discovery call with me, and we can go ahead and see how I can go ahead and help you and give you a full plan on how to go ahead and do that as well. And then our next one is managing debt strategically. So what this means is that you are going to pay off all high interest debt. These are things like credit cards, or if you got screwed over on a car note and your interest rate on the car is really, really high, you want to go ahead and pay these things off first. There are different ways to strategically do this. This is something that I help people do. So again, I'm always available for coaching. If you do have a lot of debt and you're drowning in debt, we can go ahead and work together to see how you can go ahead and get that taken care of. And just as a side note, if you listen to other financial gurus or other finance bros, they will tell you that all debt is bad. It doesn't matter if it's student loans, it doesn't matter if it's mortgages or anything like that. I'm here to tell you that, well, yes, the goal is to be debt-free at some point. If you do have a mortgage or a student loan, a lot of times those are really low interest, and It's not going to essentially make or break you like it is for like a credit card that you have like a 35% interest rate. So we can also make a plan to get that paid off, or even to lower interest on those sort of things is really important too. And also the big one, which I see, it's not just a woman thing, it's a everybody thing here in this country, in the United States, is lifestyle creep. So every time someone makes more money, they always want to go ahead and increase their lifestyle. So what this means is that when they get a promotion, they go ahead and buy a new car or a luxury car. Or they get another promotion, now they're going to buy a bigger house. Or they get a bigger promotion, so now they're going to go ahead and take more vacations. Yes, you can go ahead and treat yourself at some point, but don't make it excessive. That's where people start getting into a lot of trouble. That's where people start getting into a lot of debt. And then, like anything, nothing is promised in this world except death, like I said. But some people lose their jobs, layoffs happen, recession happens, someone gets sick. And when you start getting too comfortable with that lifestyle, it's really, really hard to get out of that lifestyle. And then last but not least is you are going to plan for the long term. This is something as simple as planning for career gaps. I'm sorry, ladies, but it happens way too often. We end up being the caregivers for everybody, for our parents, for our partners, for our children, for anybody else in the family. I can't tell you how many times I've heard nieces being the caretaker of aunts because the aunts had only boys or because they didn't have any children at all. So make sure that if you are going to volunteer for this, or if you know you're going to get stuck with this, put money away for the day that you have to be a caretaker, because you might have to go ahead and leave your job for this. Or maybe you want to be a mother, and during motherhood, you have to take time off of work to go ahead and child rear the children or raise the children. Or maybe your husband gets really sick, so now he's out of work and now you have to care for him too. Also, start really thinking about your retirement. What I mean by this is start thinking about where you want to retire. For example, for myself, I am not going to stay in the United States when I'm old and fogey. I will be in Mexico, preferably in Oaxaca. And I have to plan for that. I've had my dual citizenship for years. I have my money. I know the language over there. There's a inheritance that is coming down the pipeline when it comes to housing. If you don't have that, maybe it's a good idea to start looking at properties, buy your little plot, right? Tu terreno, and start building your house. Whatever that may look like for you. Do not depend on Social Security. It's probably going to be gone by the time that we get old. I'm 35. So by the time I'm 65, like I do not expect to get Social Security. So I have to do it myself. So I have to go ahead and plan on how I'm going to take care of myself ya cuando soy viejita. So for me, that looks like investing accounts. That looks like passive income. That looks like different ways to go ahead and make money for myself and businesses and things like that. Freelancing, things like that. So do not corner yourself in that sense. Make sure that you are planning for your retirement, seeing where you're going to live. Do you have to go ahead and start working on that citizenship for that other country you're going to live at? Because we are usually the ones that outlive the men in our lives. And we also have all of these different things that we go through, just as I mentioned, caregiving, or we don't negotiate our pay. So you have to make a plan for your long-term goals and what you're going to do in retirement. So those are really the things that you have to go ahead and do in order to start creating that financial independence as a woman. Number one, earn and grow income. Number two, build a strong financial foundation. Number three is invest early and consistently, even if it's $5 a month. I'm proud of you if you can do $5 a month. Number four, protect yourself legally and financially. Number five is managing debt strategically. And then number six is planning for the long term. So those are all things that I have personally done. And I gave you examples too on what I'm currently doing because, like I mentioned before, I've seen way too many times in my lifetime where my family members or even loved ones in the community have put themselves in the situation where they are financially dependent on somebody else. And I never, never want anyone to go ahead and experience that if they don't have to. So it's really important, it's really powerful to be a woman in this world, in this patriarchal world, and say, I can do it. Or say, yeah, like I can make my own money or I have my own money. There's no better like middle finger to the patriarchy than that. And like I said, like that is something that I have always instilled in myself. And really, I believe now, kind of looking back at my business of Adriana Talks the Needle, like that's really been like the strongest foundation of it all. That I want women to experience that financial security. And I want women to feel so secure and so empowered in themselves. And my goal has always been in my life to never find myself stuck or cornered like so many women in my life. But the other part too is I know with every decision that I make, it's like two big middle fingers to my uncles who are very machista. So whatever your purpose is or your reasoning for wanting financial independence as a woman, échale ganas, chingona, and just know that there is a fellow chingona on your side. And, you know, even if I don't know you personally, I am rooting for you all the way and that you need to do this. So I hope that these tips and tricks kind of, you know, help you through this. And it's never too late. You know, if you're already married or, you know, if you're already starting to come to retirement age, it is never too late to get your finances right. And I am always here to help you along the way too, through coursework, through one-on-one coaching, through this platform of this podcast as well. Don't hesitate to go ahead and fill out that form so we can go ahead and have a conversation about how I can go ahead and help you along the way. So again, happy International Women's Day. And if you found this enlightening, empowering, send this to a really good amiga, a really good comadre, anyone else that just needs to hear this. Go ahead and send them the link to the podcast episode or to the YouTube video if you're watching this on YouTube. If you want to go ahead and follow me and you want to go ahead and fill your feed with this sort of information, you can go ahead and follow me on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. I am the most active on Instagram though. And of course, make sure that you rate, like, and subscribe to the podcast or to the YouTube channel. It really, really helps the numbers and it helps reach more people as well. So thank you for taking the time to go ahead and listen to this episode, and we'll talk to you next time. Talk to you later.